Hey guys, today we have a project tutorial video and we are going to make Mosaic Crochet hats. And this one is using the Chevron Skulls pattern. Very simple design, lots of just straight up and down stitches, very few special stitches. So if you've never done Mosaic Crochet before, this is going to be a really good project for you to get started with. I also have another version of that pattern that I made, and this one instead has zigzags. I'm actually going to update the pattern, so this is also included in the Chevron Skulls pattern if you'd like to try one like this. And of course, if you want to use different patterns, you can absolutely do that. This is a hat that I made using the Batty pattern. I will also show you how to figure out the stitch count, so you can use pretty much any pattern to make a hat. So you can make different sizes for adults and kids. And I don't normally wear hats because my hair is unruly and I usually have it up in a bun anyway, but let's try on this hat. So you can see it's like a very simple bucket style hat that is gathered at the top, and I think it's kind of cute for Halloween and getting into the colder months. It's already freezing here in Maine. And yeah, this one is a little bit bigger, but if you use a thinner yarn, you could get this Batty pattern to fit really well. I'm going to try using like a DK weight next time that I do this one, but I will show you all of those details. So I'm going to break the video up into 4 parts. I'm going to start with showing you how to measure and get the right stitch count for your pattern. And then I am actually going to crochet this pattern right here. But if you want to use a different pattern and just want to figure out how to make the hat in general, you can skip ahead to where I will show you how to decrease and connect the top. And then finally, I will make some pom poms. I literally just got this in the mail yesterday. I have never used a pom pom maker before. I usually always do it with my hands. So let's explore this thing together. So yeah, follow the timestamps for the part of the project that you are interested in watching. And let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, let's talk about all the tools that we're going to need for this project. I am going to be using a eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter, because I plan on using, don't mind all the scribbling. I'm going to be using Cascade Pacific and this neon orange color paired with also Cascade Pacific in black. But before you completely commit to a hook, making these hats really all depends on the pattern that you're using and how many repeats you have in order to make the hat fit correctly. So for an adult size hat, you want it to be around 22 to 24 inches around. And if you're using a pattern that has like a very wide repeat, like for example, this one, this becomes a little tricky because you're stuck with having this wide of a repeat all the way around, and that might end up being too big of a hat or too small of a hat. So you might want to adjust your hook size or think about using a different yarn if the size of the repeat doesn't fit for the number that you need for your hat. You're also going to want to use a good pair of scissors and a tapestry needle for closing up the top of the hat. And very important, 1 stitch marker. I would absolutely recommend using a stitch marker for working in the round when you're starting your first row. This is going to be very helpful. So one very important thing to keep in mind when you are using a different pattern than this one is any pattern that you have that has a +1 repeat, that one that doesn't just continue all the way around. This one is a +1. You really want to make sure that this column right here that you're not repeating doesn't contain any special stitches, because special stitches are like next to impossible to split in half. So you want to make sure that your pattern doesn't have anything in here. But if you have any patterns like this one, this is the Dreams pattern. This one, you really can't split. This was a DC decrease centered, and then we have another triangle over here. Those stitches cannot be split in half. I've tried. It's like really complicated. So what I ended up doing was keeping that +1 stitch in the stitch count, and then they end up butting up next to each other. If you don't mind how this looks, which I don't think this looks that bad, that's what the back of your hat would end up looking like if the two can't be split. You're just going to have them like a few stitches that are next to each other. The Batty pattern has special stitches in that last row, And you can still do it. You just have to like cheat a little bit. I know it might be a little bit hard to see, but when you are repeating the Batty pattern, this is like a triangle stitch here that makes these cool points in the bat ears. But in the seam here, you can't split the triangle stitch. So what I ended up doing was starting it as if you were working it flat. So there would be 2 DCs in the same stitch. And then when you get to the end, you actually do a DC crossing over to the bottom here into the first stitch and then attaching it. So if you wanted to do the Batty pattern in the round without any extra spaces, that is the key to doing that. So anyway, the Chevron and Skulls pattern is really easy to split and to leave out this last stitch here, because you can just repeat it over and over and over and over, and there is absolutely no seam to be found. So that's why this is a really good pattern for a hat. And if you were wondering about what yarn I used for each of these hats, I will put that in the description. So yeah, I'm going to use the neon orange for the hat that we're going to work on today. Also, very important, you want to make sure you have a full skein per color for making a hat. And full skein meaning like at least 180 yards. And for the example that I'm going to be doing today, I'm actually going to be using this as my my model. This is a styrofoam Halloween skull I've had in my collection forever. This actually ends up being a good kid size. So yeah, let's give this skull a little hat. And for a kid size hat, I would recommend trying to stay within about 20 inches around. And one more very important thing I forgot to mention, make sure that the pattern that you plan on using is less than 9 inches tall. Ideally, you want to use smaller repeats, so then you won't have to have anything cut off at the top. But this hat measures 8 inches tall, but because of the gathering here, it's okay to go up to 9. So just read the details in the pattern that you have to see if the design will work for a hat. Okay, we are going to get started now. So I'm going to start with black, and that is because color A is the darker color here, the purple shade here, which would make the middle skull here in orange. So just make sure that whenever you start a pattern that you pay attention to which color it starts with, so your design works out the way that you want it to. And this chart is 12 stitches across the repeat, plus 1 for this one. We are going to ignore this entire column here and only follow these 12 stitches in the repeat section. Some of my older patterns don't have this line here. It just has the brackets at the bottom. I am in the process of updating all of my patterns. My goal is to have that done by 2026, but you know, I have like 70 patterns and like 20 of them need to be redone. So bear with me with that, but this one will be updated and we can put this aside for now. So depending on which pattern you are going to use, we are going to start with 12 for the Chevron and Skulls pattern. So just add a slip knot onto your hook, and we are going to chain 12 multiple times until we get to the size that we want for our hat. And we are just going to repeat 12 stitches all the way around. I'm guesstimating that we're going to be doing between 7 or 8 skulls for a kid size and possibly 8 to 9 skulls for an adult size. So we will be repeating these 12 stitches either 7 or 9 times depending on the size of your hat. And it's always a good idea to check your model and see how far you've come. See, we've got a long way to go to get around that one right there. So I'm going to keep going. Okay, so I think I have the approximate length that I need for my hat. I'm just going to wrap it around the skull to see how far off we are. So this actually ends up meeting pretty good right here. You do not want to pull really tight. You really want this chain to be kind of loose, and you want it to fit loosely around your upper eyebrow and right around the base of your neck here. If it's really tight, you're going to want to add another repeat. If it's loose, you might want to take out a repeat, but if it's kind of in between, you might want to think about changing either your hook size to something larger or smaller. But I think this, for our purposes here, fits pretty well here. What you want to keep in mind is when you're doing the single crochet row, which comes up next, this chain is going to become a lot smaller. Not like a lot, but by like a few stitches, because now we're working into these stitches, they're going to become a little bit narrower. So you don't want that first measurement to be super tight because it's going to get smaller. Once you have the size that you want, we are going to chain 1 and insert your hook into the second chain from the hook. And we are just going to add single crochet stitches all the way across the chain. And then we are going to remeasure to make sure that we are on the right track here. Okay, I just finished my single crochet row and it is coming in right about 19 inches, which is perfectly fine because I'm just putting mine on a skull. But if you want to add another inch or make yours a little bit bigger, I would say adding another repeat would not be ideal. You could take this out and either use a thicker yarn or use a smaller hook and then add that extra repeat. That might get you to the 20 inches for a kid size. Or like I said, if you were trying to get to the adult size between 22 and 24 inches, you can adjust from there. But I'm just going to go with this one being 19 inches. That's fine by me. I am going to come back in here and we want to take this and make a loop and make sure that it is not twisted anywhere. And we are going to bring the front to the back here. And this is where the stitch marker comes in handy because you can hold this in place and switch colors and connect it and not have to worry about it twisting around. I am just going to zoom in real quick so you can see what I mean, because this is black yarn and it's a little difficult. So no twists back here. This lines up front and back. And we are just going to add a stitch marker to hold this in place so it doesn't twist anywhere. So from the back to the front and just close it up. And now we can join the round and switch colors. This is the exact same tutorial that I have for the crocheting in the round with hidden seams. We are going to pull up a loop here and take our hook out. And I apologize if this is very hard to see, but we are going to insert our hook from the back into this front stitch here, both loops. I'll show you before I pull the loop through here. So both loops from the back to the front, and we're going to turn this whole thing this way. And that loop that we pulled out right here is going to go right over our hook. And we're going to tighten it and pull it through that stitch there and turn it back to the front. So all you're doing is connecting that round from the back through both loops of the first stitch. I apologize greatly that I'm using black yarn for this tutorial. If you need help and you're like, I can't see what the heck she's doing, please go and watch my crocheting in the round tutorial because that one uses way brighter colors and easier to see. So let's move on. Now we are going to add our second color, and all you do is add a slip knot on your hook. You can leave maybe like a 3-inch long tail or so, and we are going to pull that loop through the loop that's on our hook and tighten the first color. So we're going to tighten the black. So now we only have the orange on our hook, and that little knot is behind the black. You don't want that knot to pull through the loop. You want to make sure that it's on the left side. And I believe if you're crocheting left-handed, that would be on the right side. So first things first, you want to chain 1 after you've tightened it. And we're going to add all single crochet stitches all around the loop here, starting from the stitch right below this orange stitch right here, back loops only. So all single crochet, back loop, the first stitch is directly below your hook, and we are just going to add single crochet. Don't crochet over the tail, we're going to leave this. We're just going to do back loops only, single crochet all the way around. Okay, at this point, I'm going to stop and not connect the orange yet. What we're going to do is connect the bottom of this while we're here. So I'm just going to pull this and leave a little loop here, and we're going to turn this upside down. So we are looking at the bottom of the round, and you're just going to want to find the tail from the beginning of the first round. And that is what we are going to weave back and forth to close the bottom. So we can take out the stitch marker, and we are going to insert our hook into the space at the very bottom, and we're going to just pull the tail through to the front, all the way through. And then we are going to put our hook back on the other side. So at the very beginning part of the chain, we're going to go from the back to the front, right through there, and pull that tail back through to the other side and pull it all the way through. So now that little tail is facing the back, and when we turn this over, we are going to find the second color here. Here's the tail end from color B and color A, and we are just going to tie these two together with a square knot to hold them in place. Just like that. And then when we are done with making the whole hat, we can just weave these two tail ends in. So for now, these are secure. We don't need the stitch marker anymore. And now we're going to turn it back over to the front and straighten everything out. Again, we're going to have this loop here, take our hook out and turn it so it's facing the back. And now we are going to put our hook into the first two loops of the first stitch from the back. Just like that. And if you look, that is going to be pulling up the first single crochet. It's a little hard to see because of the black yarn, but this will be the first chain, and this is the first stitch, both loops. And now we can take this loop, put it over our hook, tighten it, and pull it through both loops. Now we can turn back to the front, and that join is now in the back. And we can switch back to the black yarn and just hold it up and slip stitch and pull the orange yarn to tighten. And before we start, chain one. And now we are ready to take a look at our chart and start following the chart to make the pattern. So I just quickly want to point out, most of my patterns will start with the 2 foundation rows. So these 2 rows right here that we just did, most of my patterns will show those in the chart. This chart, this newly updated chart, does not show those stitches. And the reason why I've started doing that is because it sometimes gets confusing when these are just 2 blank rows in the chart, and when you are repeating in different sections in different orders, it's better to just start from row 1 for the chart after you've done 2 foundation rows already. So after we have these 2 rows done, we are ready to actually start with row 1. And We are only going to be following the repeat section, which is 12 stitches across, and that is from between these two bold lines. Just these 12 stitches repeated for the entire pattern. So if you are absolutely brand new to Mosaic Crochet, let me get you started. It is very easy. Each of these boxes represents a stitch, and so we will be looking at just the back loops for single crochet stitches, and for double crochet stitches we're looking all the way down here into the black section directly below. Those are the stitches we'll be putting double crochet stitches, and those are represented by X's in the chart. So when we're looking at row 1, this is 2 single crochet, 1 double, 2 single, 1 double, 1 single, 1 double, 2 single, 1 double, 1 single, and then you repeat it again. And when you're repeating it, that would be 1 single plus 2 singles, so that would be 3 in a row when you're repeating it. So the first 2 stitches would be single crochet, and that would be the back loop of the top row, 1 and 2, and then the double crochet stitch will be down here in the black row. So double crochet, we're skipping over that orange row and we're going into the black, and that will be the front loop that we skipped when we did the first row of single crochet stitches. And then we have 2 more single, 1, 2, and another double crochet again down here, skip over the orange, and we're going into that front stitch in the first row. Next stitch single, top back loop, and then the next one is a double, so back down here, 1 double crochet, then 2 more single, one double down here, and 1 more single crochet. And now when we are repeating this whole sequence, we are starting with 2 single crochet. So we just finished here. Now those are the 2 single crochet that we're going to start the sequence all over again. And we are going to repeat this sequence as many times as we need to get to the end of the seam here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I will meet you for row 2. Okay, so I've gone ahead and joined the round, switched colors, and chained 1. And let's take a look at row 2. Row 2 is very, very easy. We've got 1 DC, 2 singles, 1 DC, 2 singles, 1 DC, 2 singles, all the way around. So that's nice and easy. First stitch is directly below the hook, and that is 1 DC. And we'll put that in here. And then 2 singles, which is the 2 back stitches, top back loops only, 1, 2. And the next DC will go down here, and again, next 2 single crochet stitches will go here, and we will continue this all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this round, and I will meet you for round 3. Okay, so here's what the end of round 2 looks like. Still pretty abstract, but all of these shapes will start zigzagging, and you will see the pattern emerge as you go. But instead of going row by row, all of these stitches are very basic. So row 3 would be single, double, 2 single. So every time you see an X, that's double crochet. Every time you see single, this would be 3 single crochet in a row, and you would stop here and continue. And I am going to, off camera, continue all the way up until row 14 where we have this triangle stitch here, and I will go over that with you when we get to that point. So I will see you back for row 14. Okay, so here we are after row 13 is done, and we are ready to add round 14, and this is the one that has the triangle stitch in the middle here. So let's look at the chart. So for row 14, we're going to start with 2 single, 1 double, 1 single, 1 double. So we'll just add those in here. And now we're up to the point in the chart where we have these 2 angled stitches and the triangle here. So all angled stitches like that are skips, including like these diagonal ones here. That is actually a skip stitch, and that's a skip stitch, and skip and skip. So we're going to skip this first stitch right here and add our triangle stitch right in the middle here, which is 1 DC, 1 single right above it, and another DC back in the same stitch. So let's do that. We're going to go DC in the middle here, and then directly above it we are adding our single crochet, and then DC right back into the same stitch here. So right underneath the single into the same stitch. Now we have 3 stitches worked in the same stitch space, and we are skipping this stitch here, and we're going to continue following the chart, the next one being DC, and you can kind of see what that triangle ends up doing. It will make this angle here, and yeah, that's how you finish a triangle. So I'm just going to continue row 14, and then I will meet you back for row 15 to show you how to do the diagonal stitches. Okay, and now for row 15, we've got 1 single, 1 double, 1 single, and then we have this diagonal stitch. So I'm just going to add those first 3 stitches in here. And to do a diagonal up stitch, that starts with a single crochet, and then directly below it we're adding a double crochet in the same stitch space, and then we will skip the next stitch. So let's do that. We have, okay, so 1 single, and the double crochet will go directly below it down here in the same stitch area. So 1 here, and then we skip this next stitch right here. Skip that stitch, so then the next stitch in the chart will go here, and that one is a single crochet, and we have 3 of them. So we'll add those in. And then a diagonal down stitch. We'll start with a skip and then double crochet down here with a single crochet directly above it. So skip this stitch. We're going to add our DC into the black down here. And single crochet directly above it in the same stitch area, right above. And that's a diagonal down. And we can just continue row 15. And what I'm going to do is go ahead, since we don't have any more special stitches, I am going to work rows 16 through 23, and then I will meet you back here and show you how to repeat this top part. Okay, so this is what the hat should look like after you've completed the entire chart. And to expand the zigzag pattern so it is tall enough to be a hat, we are going to repeat rows 18 through 23 again. So once you finish 23, start over again from row 18 and just keep continuing to add all 6 rows until you have the height that you need for your hat. So I'm just going to measure on my skull here to see how we're doing so far. And ideally we want to crochet enough rows so there's no space here. So keep crocheting until there's no space left. You want it to just be barely touching at the center. I'm at about 5 inches here, and I think I'm going to try and go to around 7 inches tall. I'm gonna keep measuring onto the skull to see how it's fitting. But yeah, you can keep just trying it on or keep measuring it. If you're making an adult size, again, try and make it up to between 8 and 9 inches tall. That's a pretty standard size for an adult size hat. So I am going to continue adding my rows, and I will meet you back here to finish up the top. Okay, so here we are with the top of the hat, and we are ready to close this up. And I just wanted to show you, you want to make sure that the top meets. And I'm actually going to show you in orange because it'll be way easier to see, but I'm planning on adding one more round of black and then doing my decreases in black, but just so you can see it better. Okay, so for the decrease row, you're just going to continue using the same color as your last row. So we're not going to switch colors anymore. We're going to chain 2. So we have the height for the decrease, and we're going to yarn over and going into both loops of the first stitch right in the front. We're going to start a decrease. So pull through 1 loop, pull through 2 loops, and then you have 2 loops left on your hook. You're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch, and we're going to start another decrease. Pull through 1 loop, pull through 2 loops, and when you have 3 loops on your hook, pull through all 3. Just like that. And we're going to continue all the way around. So I'll show you again. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop, pull through 2 loops, stop, and we're going to go to the next stitch, yarn over, go into both loops of the next stitch, pull up 1 loop, pull through 2 loops, and then pull through all 3. And again, we're just going to continue all the way around to the beginning here. So I'm at the very end of my decrease round, and I just wanted to show you, if you end up with just 1 stitch left, you can just add a DC there. You don't have to try and decrease that again. That's perfectly fine. So I'm just going to add my last 2 decreases in here. And we are going to join just like before. We're going to do it from the back. And we can chain 1 and tighten it. And at this point, we can cut the other yarn. We don't need this anymore, and leave like a 6-inch-ish tail. And for the working yarn, we are going to reserve about 1 yard of this yarn and then just cut the end. So now we can pull all the way through and tighten it, and we can use this yarn to gather the top. So the main reason why we add this decrease round here is because Mosaic Crochet is very thick, and so if you were to try and just gather all of these stitches together, you'd end up with a big hole at the top because there's just too much bulk. So when you add this decrease round, you're decreasing this whole row by half. So now we only have half the amount of stitches to gather together, which makes it a whole lot easier for making Mosaic Crochet hats. And now I'm going to thread my tapestry needle, and we can begin going through all of these stitches here to gather them. Let's zoom in a little bit, see if you can see it. So the yarn is already in the back, so the next stitch that we're going to do, we're going to come from the back towards the front. And we are going to go through every other hole. You see those big holes? We're going to go through every other one. So from the back, coming through the front, we are going to skip the next hole, and we're going to go into the next one. And we are just going to keep weaving, skipping every other hole, front to back, just doing a running stitch all the way around. And if it starts getting a little bit bulky in your hands, you can pull it through and continue. So I am just going to continue all the way around to the other side. And once we get back to the beginning, we can pull this real tight to gather all of that in the middle. And now you can see at the very top, the hole is much smaller than if we were to try and gather the whole Mosaic Crochet at the very top. So we can pull that even tighter, but what I'm going to do now is reinforce this top. So what we will be doing is going and zigzagging across using our needle in order to close up the top even tighter. So just go in from one side and come out the other side at the top, just like that. And then you can pull it real tight. And we're going to continue doing that going across to tighten the top of the hat. And now the first stitch was this way. Now I'm going to go through the stitches in the opposite direction and just try and get the top just like that across and pull it real tight. And you can just keep doing this as many times as you want. Whatever, you can stop whenever you feel like it is secure enough at the top. And once your hat is nice and tightly closed at the top, we are going to push our needle down so it is facing the inside. And we can flip that over and pull it through. And I'm just going to turn this inside out so it's easier for you to see. So I'm just going to secure the black yarn in one of these little stitches here and just start making a series of knots in order to make sure this thing does not unravel. So just pick a couple of spots to make knots here. And then what I like to do is find where this last tail is here, and we are going to weave this yarn all the way to this edge here, so then we can tie these two colors together and then weave them away. I feel like that makes the connection a lot stronger when both of these are connected together. So just a few stitches over to get it to be right next to where this orange one is, and we can actually cut. And when we have two tails, I just do a square knot to connect these two together. And then weave in the black one, weave in the orange one, and then there's one other spot that we need to weave in, and that is at the very, very beginning here at the bottom seam. Make sure that that knot is nice and tight, and then you can weave in those two tails as well. And a quick tip for weaving in really short tail ends: weave in your needle first, and then that little tail end will be right next to the eye of the needle, and then you can thread it in and pull it through. So once we're in here, you can find the head here, and see how easy that is to weave in a teeny tiny tail. Just pull it through a tiny bit and all the way through, and it's all gone. Now you can just trim this piece here, and that's that. And now our hat is complete. Oh my, it's so cute in this little size. Okay, here she is. The hat is done. Now we can continue on and add a pom-pom to the top of this to kind of hide this. And really, it's up to you if you want to match the same color as the decrease here, or if you want to add the contrasting color. Either way, it'll help camouflage this spot that doesn't have any orange in there. Alright guys, it is pom-pom time, and I usually just make pom-poms by hand. I will just wrap it around my fingers, make a giant ball, tie it together, and then cut it into a ball. This is the first time I'm going to be trying a pom-pom maker. This one's a little, the directions are a little funny. So I'm going to show you how I do pom-poms by hand first, and then we're going to try and figure out this thing. So I'm going to start with a 12-inch piece of yarn, and I'm going to hold this yarn. It's a little awkward, but I hold it across my fingers like this just so I don't have to try and get it in after. And I'm going to make my pom-poms about 3 fingers wide. So I'm just going to hold here, and we are going to start just wrapping around tons and tons and tons of times. All right, I think that's probably good enough. I have no idea how many times around that was. So I just cut a tail there, can move this aside, and then we take this short one, and it's a little awkward, but I'm going to tie this together. One-handed tying. I'm sure there are way better tricks, but this is just how I've been doing it my whole life. And I don't make pom-poms very often. So once we have a sort of a knot there, and then I take my fingers out, and we're going to try and get the other side and make a knot around this way too. So just a square knot. Once you have the first around, now we can tighten it, tighten it, tighten it, pull, pull, pull. And then I add another knot on the other side to make it so it doesn't come out. And we are ready to go. And now I hold the long tails down here, and we start cutting all of these loops. So I'm just gonna go around, try and find all of the loops. And I kind of just like brush it with the scissor to see if I missed any loops. We're looking pretty good. And yeah, it looks like a nightmare right now. And now we take time giving this little thing a haircut and making it more round. So I just kind of turn it and see any long pieces I'll just trim off. You could see this is not very fluffy either, because I could have gone way more around. And now we have all of these longer pieces that are closer to your hand, and those need to be much shorter as well. So I just kind of turn it in and try and make it as round as possible, getting rid of some of these longer pieces here. I could keep trimming this thing forever and ever. It's never going to be perfectly round. But yeah, once you think you're happy with it, here's my raggedy little pom-pom that I'm going to add to my hat. I could still see more pieces that I want to keep cutting, and I'm going to be doing this forever. This technique is not my favorite, but I'm sure there are other techniques out there. This is just how I do it, and this is free. Okay, now let's see what this whole thing is about, and if this is any easier than what I just had to do. Okay, so this one seems huge, but again, I don't really know. Oh my god, I don't even know how to open these. As shown in figure A and B are overlap each other. What? Oh, okay, you're supposed to take it apart? I don't know how to do that. Does it? Oh, okay. So there's two pieces here. This one looks really big. Maybe we should go with a smaller one. So I'm going to take these two apart, as shown in figure A and B are overlapping each other. Open the blue part. Okay. Like this? Okay. Sure. Will be wrapped in blue plastic part of the wool. Will be wrapped in blue plastic part of the wool. What? Oh, jeez. All right, we're gonna go by pictures alone. It looks like they're just wrapping the yarn around one of these. I don't know. And I'm not even really sure how to start because it's not showing me anything. So, okay, we will wrap. And then, like, what do I do? Just hold the other end so it doesn't unravel? I don't know where that goes. And when I get too close to the edge, I'm afraid it's gonna fall off. So, okay, maybe this is good enough. I don't know. Step 4 says operation in figure 3 repeated. Like, okay, so do I just continue onto this side? What? I think, and then close it? Maybe? Oh, let's get that over here. Somebody needs to make a YouTube video on how to do this. I'm sure there's tons. I just have not done my research. Let's suffer together. I guess we're supposed to close this now. What do I do with this? I'm not sure. Step 5 says cut the overlap part with the scissors. All right, I'm just gonna cut that, I guess. Cut the overlap part. What? How? Yeah, I don't understand. Oh, what? What about this part? I'm so confused. I think both of these pieces were supposed to be wrapped together. I mean, none of that shows that in here. I think I'm gonna have to start over. Ugh. Oh, so how am I gonna get this off of here now? Maybe I'll use a different size. Is there another size? I don't want to unwrap this. Oh, I will be back in an hour after I unwrap this whole thing. So now I'm going to put all these pieces back together because they're not supposed to be taken apart. Okay, I'm going to wrap around both of these a million times using the yarn I just unraveled. Okay, now I think I'm going to close this and do the other side and try and get it the same thickness as this side. That seems to make sense to me. All right, this part makes me nervous. They're just like, just cut it. I don't know. So the instructions are saying cut the overlap part with the scissors. And I mean, like, nothing's securing this on here, so, ooh. Oh, God. Oh. Okay, I'm doing it. This is weird. Oh, so weird. This feels so wrong. Okay, we have some shedding and some moving. Let's see. Use the single wool tied up the middle hard taut. Oh my Lord. Use the single wool tied up the middle hard taut. Okay, so I'm thinking a piece of yarn is going to go around this part here. Okay, I'm gonna just cut a piece. Let's see. So I'm going to do this, I think. And then, oh, this is scary. All right, I'm pulling. I'm pulling real tight and it feels like it went through the middle. This is so weird. I'm going to, I think, do this again. Open de-ice. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be device. How do I open it? Oh, it's just like, just open it. Just open it. Oh, what in the world have I made here? Oh, weird. How do I get it out? How do I get it out? How do I, oh, maybe this way? Okay. Oh, we got it out. Look how round that is. That's not bad at all. That was a weird experience. Oh, we made a very, very fluffy pom-pom and it just needs some trimming. Wow, I know, she's thick. Oh, this is nice. Nice and bulky. I like it. And we have some little ones that need to be trimmed. This is kind of cool. The directions were awful, but hey, we're learning together. Oh, I feel like I can trim forever and ever and ever. I'm going to stop. Okay, so the pom-pom maker actually was quite successful. I think I would even go even thicker than this. And this was my lame attempt at my own handmade pom-poms. Anyway, now let's attach these to the top of the hat. So we're going to just pretend this one didn't happen, and we're going to use the nice fluffy one. And what we're going to do is, using a crochet hook, we are going to go from the inside of the hat and find a spot on one side of the hole, just like that. And we're going to pull through one strand on this side all the way through, and then with the other string find a hole on the other side of the hole here. It doesn't need to be exact, it's pretty good. And now we're going to take the other strand and pull that all the way through. Okay, so both of our strands are through, and we just pull real tight and do a square knot and pull tight. So now the pom-pom is securely on there between two sides here. And there it is. Go ahead and weave in these last two tails into any of the parts that are black. And there is our finished hat. Oh, how cute is this little hat? So the chevron and skull pattern is available individually, and it will actually include instructions for making this hat and the updated zigzag as well. And you can also get the chevron and skulls pattern in the catacombs pack, which is on sale every October during the October pattern sale. And all of my patterns are available at sixeldesign.com. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will be back soon for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.